This video is sponsored by JNC Collectibles website at jnccollectibles.com. Be sure to check them out for all your TCG needs, from sealed products to sleeves to playmats. Link is in the description box below. Thank you, and back to the video.
What's up, JNC? This is JNC member Jib here, and today I'm live on Twitch at twitch.tv/Jib_YGO. Say hi to my chat. We are in the early stages of testing Infinite Forbidden, and we're getting ready for our Monday stream, so we're going to start putting together a core for a Yubel deck. Yubel is a anime character turned Yu-Gi-Oh deck from the GX era, and post Infinite Forbidden with the Fiend Smith cards and with the addition of a new card called Phantom Yubel that we're anticipating for the Battles of Legends set. Fingers crossed. It will propel Yubel to a tier 1 strategy and probably the second, if not the best deck in the game. When I say the best deck in the game, I'm saying potentially for the national season, it is a correct choice over Snake Eye. Not that it's necessarily a more powerful deck than Snake Eye, because I don't think that is true. But maybe, depending on how the format is, with the surprise factor and having a bunch of new cards and being around a similar power level of Snake Eye, while via less consistent and playing more Garnet-y cards, Yubel could potentially be the correct choice for the national season. We'll see. We have about a month and a half to test. So right now we're going to be putting together a core for Yubel deck, and we're going to go over the cards. So for the first 6 cards are the 3 Yubel starter cards. So first we're just gonna put the starter cards in the deck, inside of the deck. So we need Terraforming. We need Beckoning Beast. 3 copies of Beckoning Beast. And with the Beckoning Beast, we need... This is just my cheat code. I just type in Uriah. We need some copies of Spirit Gate. Opening of the Spirit Gate. Oops. So we have 3 copies of Nightmare Throne. When this card is activated, you can take 1 Fiend with 0 attack and defense from your deck and either add it to your hand or destroy it. Once per turn, if a Yubel monster you control leaves the field by card effect, you can add to your hand 1 Yubel monster from your deck to your hand, or grave or banishment, whose level is 1 higher or 1 lower. Then you can special summon it, ignoring its summoning condition. So this card is a Rhoda. It searches your 2 main starter cards. It searches Samsara D Lotus, and it searches Dark Beckoning Beast, both of which gets your plays started. So this is your field spell that searches it. You play 1 Terraforming, 3 copies of Samsara D Lotus. You contribute this card, special summon 1 Yubel monster from your deck. During your opponent's turn, when a monster effect is activated while you control a Yubel monster, quick effect, you contribute this card. The activated effect becomes destroy 1 Yubel monster on the field. And it says during the end phase, if you control Yubel and this card's in the graveyard, you can add it to your hand or special summon it. So that requires you to specifically control Yubel, not just a Yubel monster. So it's a very important starter of the deck. If you control the regular Yubel, usually you won't, but sometimes you do end on the regular Yubel. Then you have like a pseudo monster negate or just a monster effect alternator. So it changes the monster effect into something that gives you an advantage. Then we play 3 copies of Dark Beckoning Beast. When this card is normal summoned, you can add 1 Uriah, Haman, or Raviel, or a card that specifically mentions it from your deck to your hand. It also gives you an additional normal summon of a Fiend monster with 0 attack and defense. So you're going to be using Dark Beckoning Beast in order to search Opening of the Spirit Gate, which is a really cool card. When it's activated, it adds 1 of the Haman, Raviel, or Uriah, or a monster that specifically mentions it. So Opening of the Spirit Gate searches a copy of Dark Beckoning Beast. And it also has a second effect that once per turn, you can discard a card, special summon a Fiend monster with 0 attack and defense from your graveyard. So the cool thing about this card is that if you have 1 of these cards in the graveyard, this card discards for call, so you can discard a Fiend with 0 attack and defense and summon that card. So you use this in order to get Yubel cards out of your hand, and you can also get cards like Samsara D Lotus out of your hand if you draw multiple normal summons. Also, the additional normal summon also helps you get it combos well with Samsara D Lotus in order to do some really cool combos. For the rest of those are the main starter cards in the deck. For the rest of the engine cards, you want to play one copy of the OG Yubel, one copy of the Terra Incarnate. So you have to play one of each of these cards. You don't have to play Ultimate Nightmare; it's not needed. But you do need one of each Yubel and one Terra Incarnate. The deck revolves around Yubel. You're going to be summoning Yubel from your hand, deck, or graveyard multiple times during your turn. Reviving it, it's crucial for a lot of your plays. And then when Yubel is destroyed, it summons Terra Incarnate, so it's a natural extender. Obviously, these cards are not very great to draw, but they do have some usage in the hand with the new Phantom of Yubel. And you do have ways to get them out of your hand, like opening of the Spirit Gates. And then the next card I want to talk about being Nightmare Pain. So this is a card that you could play from 1 to 3 copies of, because it is a searchable card. It's not necessarily a card that you want to draw by itself. It doesn't really contribute to starting your plays. Is more of an extender card that you want to search off of your Spirit of Yubel, which is a new card that came out in Phantom Nightmare. And basically, this card is a pseudo battle fader. It can't be destroyed by battle. You take no battle damage with battles involving it. And if it's destroyed, you special summon a Yubel monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard, or banishment. And yeah, when it's summoned, it searches or sets a spell or trap that specifically mentions Yubel. So there are a couple of spells and traps that specifically mention Yubel, but for the actual competitive Yubel deck, the only one that you're really going to be playing is Nightmare Throne. Some people think that you can search, or Nightmare Pain, excuse me. I was kind of leading into the next thing. Some people think that you can search Nightmare Throne off of this card, but you cannot, because the way that Spirit of Yubel is worded is it says a card that specifically mentions Yubel, where Nightmare Throne doesn't specifically mention Yubel, it mentions Yubel monsters. So you can't search Nightmare Throne off of Spirit of Yubel, but you can search Nightmare Pain. And what Nightmare Pain does is it says once during your main phase, you can destroy a dark monster in your hand or face up field, and if you do, add a Yubel or card that specifically mentions it from your deck to your hand, except for Nightmare Pain. So the way that these two cards combo is that you go Spirit of Yubel, you set the Nightmare Pain to your field or add it to your hand. You usually want to set it to your field to play around cards like Drone Lockbird. Flip it, use its effect to destroy Spirit of Yubel in order to search for the next card we're going to talk about, and then Spirit of Yubel will trigger to summon a Yubel from your deck. And that's how you get a lot of your plays started. The next card that I want to talk about is we will play 2 to 3 copies of Gruesome Grave Squirmer. This card is just a generic Fiend extender. If you control a Fiend, you can quick effect special summon it from your hand, but then it gives you the option to destroy a Yubel or a monster that specifically mentions it. So you're able to use Spirit of Yubel to search the Nightmare Pain. Nightmare Pain destroys the Spirit of Yubel to search the Gruesome Grave Squirmer, summons a Yubel from the deck. Then you can special summon the Gruesome Grave Squirmer to destroy the Yubel to summon Terra Incarnate. So you kind of see like where we're going. You're basically floating bodies and summoning more guys from your deck by destroying Yubel and Yubel monsters. So that's how a lot of your plays get started. So this is the card we'll play 2 to 3 of depending on the build. Nightmare Pain, again, usually doesn't contribute to starting your plays, so you could play it safely as a one-of to be searched off of the Spirit of Yubel. And then, yeah, we can play 3 copies of Gruesome Grave Squirmer because it is a generic extender for the deck. So that's it for the main deck Yubel cards that we would play in our Yubel deck. Let me organize this a little better. So that's kind of it for the main Yubel engine. Then as for the extra deck, the main card, the most important card in the deck, honestly, the new card, Phantom of Yubel. So it takes 1 Yubel monster plus 1 Fiend with 0 attack and defense. It must be special summoned from the extra deck by shuffling the above material from your hand, field, or graveyard into your deck / extra deck. And it cannot be used as fusion material. So this that restriction is important for a few reasons. Because there's another Yubel fusion that takes 1 Yubel monster plus 1 effect monster. So Konami kind of understood that in order for this deck to be competitive, your opponent couldn't just side 3 copies of Super Polymerization, because this is the card you want to end on the board. And if this card didn't have this restriction, Super Poly actually just decimates your deck because it's a Yubel monster, and this card takes one Yubel monster plus 1+ monsters on the field. So if you made a crazy board and this card didn't have that restriction, your opponent can just activate Super Poly, fuse all 6 of your monsters into this, and then just beat you. So Konami understood that, and they were like, okay, we have to put a restriction on this card that it can't be used as fusion material, so your opponent can't just like Super Poly your board, which is a cool restriction. And it also has a downside. So another reason why that restriction is really cool, it means that Phantom of Yubel cannot recycle other copies of itself. So it can't create an infinite loop with other Phantom of Yubels to like recycle each other in order to get like an infinite loop of Phantom of Yubels, because it can't be used as fusion material. And the ruling on the card is, even though it says special summon and not fusion summon, you are conducting a fusion summon. You are conducting a fusion summon to summon the monster. So you cannot use Phantom of Yubel to summon more copies of Phantom of Yubel. But this card is an instant 2 to 3 of, depending on the space. You could get away with playing 3 of this card. Most builds play 2, but it's probably a 2 to 3 of. It really depends on how things go, because because in some of your combos you can go through 2 Phantom of Yubel in the first turn, and you want a third one for the follow-up. So 2 to 3 copies of Phantom of Yubel. Broken card. We didn't even get into the effect. My bad. So the effect of this card reads, when your opponent activates a monster effect, quick effect, you can tribute this card. The effect becomes your opponent destroys one Yubel monster from your hand, field, or deck. You can only use this effect of Phantom of Yubel once per turn. So this card basically is a monster negate for all intents and purposes that gives you advantage, and it's a way for the deck to now answer Nibiru. One of the issues with Yubel before is that the deck didn't have a very effective way to deal with multiple hand traps or deal with Nibiru without establishing an early Appaloosa that was like a multiple card combo, 2 to 3 card combo. Now, by just playing your deck, you're able to summon this card, and it's an answer to Nibiru, and the summon of this card is not once per turn. If you're able to summon 2 to 3 Phantom of Yubels, while I don't suggest it, you can summon this card multiple times a turn. And it is a level 10 body that can be used for some rank 10 plays. As for the rest of the engine for that the Yubel deck would play, you would definitely play the Unchained cards. The Unchained cards are just generic good Fiend stuff, and you do have a lot of bodies, and we are going to be using these bodies in order to link climb. So you'd play at least 1 copy of Yama and 1 copy of Rage. You don't really have a lot of extra deck space in this deck, because we do need to talk about the Fiend Smith cards, which are the secondary engine that you would play with your Yubel deck, and those cards do take up a lot of extra deck space. So you don't have infinite extra deck space, but you do have to play at least 1 copy of Soul of Rage, 1 copy of Yama, along with the 1 copy of Shavara, because you will be summoning Yama super early in your combo, adding Shavara as an extender. Shavara is good in the deck. You can destroy Yubel, it can destroy Spirit of Yubel in order to float bodies and get more advantage. So you would play 1 copy of Shavara, and then you'd play 1 copy of a trap of your choice. Both traps are good and come up in different situations. Not every combo you can end with Rage on the board. Sometimes you want to link away your Rage, and in those scenarios, then Chamber is better. Other times you end on the Rage, you want like a more aggressive trap card, then Escape is better. It really is up to player preference. By the time we get around to the national season, the deck will probably be solved, or very close to being solved, in the sense that we'll know for sure which one of these traps is better. But it's really going to be determined by play testing and seeing which one comes up in the most scenarios. Now for, in my opinion, the most important engine in the deck, being the Fiend Smith engine. The Fiend Smith cards are a huge boost for Yubel. Just generic good Fiend stuff in order to help you link climb. They bridge engines. It's a really good engine. So we play 3 copies of Fiend Smith. For the extra deck cards, we play obviously the 1 Requiem, the 1 Sanguida, the 1 Lacrimosa, and then the 1 DSRS. So you play 1 of each. You do have room to play these cards, and I think that all of them do come up. You do need them for a lot of your plays. So we do play 1 of each. And then in this deck, we are going to be playing a rank 6. You can play Rage or Beatrice. Again, both of them come up in different situations. You don't necessarily need Rage. I would suggest that you play Beatrice over Rage, because you can use Beatrice in order to dump a starter piece and then use your Yama's graveyard effect in order to revive it and then get things started that way. So I would suggest that you play Beatrice over Rage, and we will eventually go over some combos on the channel in a future video. But I do think that you would play a rank 6 in this deck. Also, we do not have this card confirmed, but Moon of the Closed World is something that you would play in this deck. If we don't get Moon of the Closed World, you would still play the Fiend Smith cards in your deck. Obviously, the engine would be a little bit worse, but they are generic Fiend cards that help you climb. They can help make cards like Yama and things of that sort, and I think you would still play them. Then we play 2 to 3 copies of Tractus, probably leaning towards 2. You want an additional copy of Tractus for when you start with Tractus in order to help get the Fiend Smith in the graveyard sometimes, or for the follow-up. And then we play 1 copy of Lurie as our engine brick, but it's not even really a brick. The card is pretty good. Even if you hard draw it, sometimes you can normal summon the Lurie and get plays started that way. So that is kind of it for the main engine. Obviously, you see you still have room for at least 13 on engine. You could potentially cut 1 copy of Tractus and have room for 14 on engine, which is a lot in a 40 card deck. You have around a 50% chance of drawing 2, a little bit over. But I think that this deck going into the national season is definitely one for you guys to look out for, and is definitely something that I would look into, because especially if Snake Eye gets hit on a ban list that some people are predicting that we're going to get before the national season, this will probably be the front runner for the best deck of the format. So if you guys like videos like this, definitely make sure to subscribe to the JNC channel. And if you guys want to see me do videos like these live on Twitch, definitely check me out at twitch.tv/jib_YGL. Thank you and have a good day. Peace.